All right. Here's an example of our base template. So the way we practice, we currently have two groups. So we break our group into basically younger guys and older guys, and we stagger it. We've had a pretty small staff, so we've had to almost pretty much have staff double up. So when a group is lifting, that might be something that really we only need one coach with, right? If we're doing a study or they're lifting. Um, but obviously, as we get out to actual practice, it's going to take a little bit more. So, uh, so let's look through it. Our gold group is usually how we start practice, whether it's preseason or when school starts. We'll slate a total of 3.5 hours for total practice. But really, the young guys are there first, and they're probably the first ones to leave. And the older guys, our blue group, is going to be more of the seniors, the juniors, the varsity guys, and they're going to be taking care of their schoolwork first to let us work with those young guys, and then they'll come in after. So hopefully, even though they leave practice later, they're a little bit more ready for going home, getting their homework done because they've done some of that already. So, and you could take this anywhere you want. Like our school gets out at 2:17, so basically we call this 2:15. To keep me sane, I've kept it at 15-minute periods. I tell the guys it's a 12-minute period with a 3-minute buffer zone. So instead of being on the horn, being able to say, hey, we're doing a 5-minute indie and all that stuff, it just hasn't been good for us. It's been much better to just do it in 15-minute intervals. And if there's really a way that a coach wants to break it down within that, I think they can change that, um, you know, on the practice plan. But instead of having 5-minute periods, it's just been easier to say, 12 to 15, and then that keeps us from flipping out too much. So let's take the young group first. So freshmen, unless they're a varsity starter, it's going to be all freshmen, and then sophomores, except for the ones that have had reached their varsity standards in the weight room. Basically, we know they're old enough to practice with older guys. They can defend themselves. They're going to practice down with gold. If there's same thing, if a sophomore is a varsity starter, same thing. If we need to start a sophomore, we'll do it, but we're going to try as hard as we can not to, unless those sophomores or freshmen already clearly have strength standards all set and we know they're safe to go on the field. So we'll have those kids get out of school. They should dress by 15 minutes after. I mean, they're young kids. It's a pain, but we'd really like them to get into their pre-practice early on. And pre-practice, if we look over here, really that could be a coach organized thing. One of the assistant coaches, I always have coaches asking, can we have more indie? Can we have more indie? And our practices are shorter than most teams, so I just tell them put it before practice. Call whatever meeting you want and work on whatever you want, or keep those kids after and do it. But I'm not going to schedule a long indie period during the practice time, just because of the amount of time we give them and the priorities we have. So if you look at pre-practice or extra indie, about 15 minutes. If you're working on your offensive stuff, here's the offensive group. Center exchange. Quarterbacks need to know how to punt, work in mesh drill with the backs, pitching, routes, arm warm up, all that stuff. Running backs are gonna work on blocking, mesh drill with the quarterbacks, pitch drill with the quarterbacks, ball security. They'll run through gauntlets of each other and stuff like that, breaking tackles and just kind of warming up that way. Routes, footwork, agility. Wide receivers, tons of stock blocking and routes. O-line, centers working the exchange. Then they should be working on individual blocking and full blocking schemes together. And that's been a work in progress. We're really trying to make that 15 minutes an independent or assistant coach driven time for pre-practice. Same thing on defense, right? If I'm working on D-line, we try to give the kids, hey, get 20 stance and starts, get 20 strikes on a buddy, drill it like a wrestling practice. Read your reach blocks, read your down blocks, work on block escapes, practice tackling on a crash pad or with a guy with a shield. Really, we're not looking for anybody who's not fully warmed up to do anything crazy intense, but just getting in that mode. Linebackers can always work guard reads, running back reads, block escape, tackling, coverage, all the stuff they need to do. Same thing with DBs. A lot of open field stuff. Get your open field stuff going. It's a nice way to take some pressure off and do the open field tackling, but without full speed, right? Just kind of work on breaking down, just like you see a lot of the pro teams do, just kind of going through the motions. So that's our pre-practice there. For speed or ABCs, we don't tell our kids that we warm up. We do speed drills and ABCs. So we'll do some dynamic stretching. We'll always teach them how to dynamic stretch and get themselves warm. That'll be sort of a before or after practice, but that's something that we expect them to do on their own. When they're with us, our warm up is really what we call a wake up, and we tell them that we're going to do speed drills. We want to be fast, excited, explosive, ready to go. We're going to treat it like a sprint practice for track, and then ABCs are going to be team basics. So if we look at speed over here, we're going to take them through full speed arm pump, full speed march, skipping, high knees, straight leg runs or prime times, backwards runs, hard shuffles, pogo jumps, little plyometrics, tuck jumps, little mini sprints, and that's our warm up. We don't do a lot of lunges or stretches. We do it in the form of like going fast, and then our ABCs, we line up everybody and we tell them, hey, 2 minutes on the clock, work blocking, and they'll go in their lines and they make up their own situation. So an O-line, D-line matchup might work on, coming out of an offensive line stance and doing a drive block or a double team block. Whereas if it's a wide receiver line, D-back line, they're going to work again on open field blocking. Then we go to tackling. We'll say, hey, 2 minutes on the clock, tackling, go. And they make up their own situations, go, go, go. I get my rep. I rotate to defense, then I rotate to the end of the line. Or I rotate the offense, however we do it. Okay, block escape, same thing, right? I might be the guy who does the block escape, then I rotate to the guy who is the dummy, and then I rotate to the end of the line. A couple minutes of turnover drills. So sometimes we'll script that. We'll say, hey, everybody's going to work on a rake and roll technique, pulling the ball out. Everyone's going to work on punching the ball out. We're going to work on 2-on-1, ripping the ball out, that kind of stuff. And then we compete. So we try to get them in the mindset of doing 20-yard dashes, 10-yard dashes, 40-yard dashes, whatever we want. We'll get one or two of those in before we really start. So that's how we start a practice. That's our idea of a warm-up. All right, so gold, during this time, the gold is going to head into right after their speed or ABCs. On a regular school day at this point, the older kids are still inside the school doing a lift, making sure they eat or hydrate. They're getting their study work done if there's stuff they got to get done with their teachers. Coaches could call meetings during this time too. If there was a varsity assistant coach that really needed to get to show some film, this is when they would do that. If we determined that was more important than getting them a lift, we go on the fly with what's the biggest thing needed at that point. We don't have an exact schedule all the time, but that's sort of that open period to do that. All right, so we're rolling a little bit with the young guys. The first 15 minutes, the base plan would be that's where we're going to install. We're going to teach a little bit of indie, a little bit of group, but never pushing too much. We're going to reinstall triple so many times. Hey guys, we're going to fix triple. Let's run triple nice and slow. Walk through. The next day might be more of a defensive day for the teaching side of things. However we want to rotate it, whatever the team needs the most, that's what we'll do. But that's going to be more of a teaching period. And then we're going to go into really 15 minutes of defensive, team and 15 minutes of offensive team. Those young guys, we've all had ugly practices, I'm sure, with the young kids trying to do a full team. So we slow that down as much as we need to. So if it's defensive team, we might say, hey, you're gonna defend power for 3 straight minutes, and the offense is going at 50%, right? And we're gonna look at how you take on your blocks as a team, how you flow over the top as a team, how you pursue the ball as a team, and then as it looks good, we'll go faster. So we'll save a couple live plays at the end that are competitive, but not many, because it gets ugly fast. If you just line up, it just looks like a bad youth practice for us, at least. Offensive team for the young guys, we'll do a lot on air. We'll get multiple groups that are just kind of going out. Like one group will start here, one group will start here, and we'll just say, hey, both groups are running triple run triple right, then triple left, run triple right, run triple left, and see which group can get more reps. And this group's going to go this way, and this group's going to go this way, so that they don't bump into each other. So we'll rehearse that way. It's hard to have a full script. Sometimes you just gotta keep getting the reps in and let it settle in. So that's how we'll do team for the young guys. Same deal. We'll put a scout team out there with shields usually, especially if they're outmatched. If it's a bunch of freshmen against returning sophomores that are getting their reps, it's fine. Get the shields out there. Keep teaching each other. Let the games be practice, because the freshman games and JV games are practice anyway. So we want this to really be a rehearsal. This gold team session. Okay, so not a huge amount of pressure there to have it be full go. That can be dress rehearsal, 75%. And maybe you go on air as hard as you can. Depends on how many guys you got. All right. So at that time, that the true part of gold practice is going on, that's when we have our blue guys start to show up and they start their pre-practice or extra, indie. So by the time we're rolling with this, there's not a ton of reteaching, and we'll probably leave one or two coaches with those young guys, and then other varsity coaches, guys that need to work some detailed indie, can swing over to those pre-practices and make it an extra indie. Okay, so we can get pretty creative with where we go there, but this is pretty much when the entire team is on the field. The young guys are finishing their practice with some team rehearsal. Older guys are coming out, starting their their independent pre-practice, or if a coach is calling a meeting, that's when they can handle that stuff. Right as the young guys team ends, that they're going to head to the weight room. All right, so almost all the time we're gonna make the weight room a very common thing for young guys. We'll give them 15 minutes to transition, but they should be heading to the weight room, and we want those guys to lift. We want them to eat. We want them to drink chocolate milk. Just start getting in the mode of building yourself up. We never need them to lift, full max every day. We have them go by field just like we do in the off season. So I'll show you that over here. So when we do our lift, we have 6 base lifts, and we have a little chart of our standards where, for example, our varsity standard to get a brick, like I talked about, is a 315 hex bar deadlift, a 205 front squat, a 205 clean, 115 pound overhead press, one arm bench for 70 pounds, 5 reps each arm, and be able to do 5 pull-ups. We also have some lat pull-down stuff for O-linemen. And then we have them just keep their score. It's almost like doing a golf score. Check on what your score is. So we have a whole point system that I can show you. But anyway, that's going to be their base lift. And we tell them, put it on the clock. Hey, in a 25-minute period, we just want you to practice these. If you are feeling real tight and real sore, this should be like a cool-down warm-up. Put a super light amount on. Just get the motions in. Get your hips feeling good. Get your shoulders feeling good. And then there's other days where you're well rested and you should be working to get stronger. So that's what those guys would do when they're lifting and eating. Same as what the older guys would be doing right after school. All right. So older guys pre-practice ends. They go into the same speed ABC situation that the young guys would. They're probably a little better at it. They can be a little more independent with it. But yeah, that's really the same thing. By the end of the season, really halfway to beyond that, that definitely doesn't take 15 minutes anymore, or even 12 minutes. But what's nice is that starts to give us a little more flexibility. We can say that we're ahead of schedule and still try to keep things at 12 to 15 minutes. And then if we do a really good job, then we get them out a little bit earlier than normal. All right, so anyway, we would expect those blue guys, the varsity and high-level JV guys, to be definitely rolling at 345. And then average day, we're going to do defense first. So, defense is going to get 3 periods, 3 15-minute periods. If the coach wants to mix it up and make it look a little different, that's fine. I trust it. It makes it easier for me as a head coach when I get a general idea. If he sends me his practice plan, if he tells me, hey, we're going to do indie for a half hour today and one period a team, that makes sense to me. I don't really, I get a lot of other things going on, so it's not always good for me to know every script and every coverage we're going to hit and all that other stuff. Like I trust them. So, some combination of 3 12 to 15-minute periods. In that time throughout the week, we know we got to get, maybe a little more indie in. I like the indie being done more pre-practice, post-practice. But if there's really technique work they got to talk about, they can schedule that. Uh, if if possible, I really like them to get into group settings where it's, hey, we're going to go the full D line and go 50% against the power blocking scheme and talk about it instead of just going through cones or going through bags and stuff. I really want them to start. This should be a time for X's and O's and really talking scheme along with technique, not really conditioning or anything like that. And then the last period we might still be in group. There might be sometimes where we'll stay in group down in this third period and we'll never go full team. But most of the time that last period is going to be a defensive team session with full scout team. A varsity game plan is going to be a little bit more detailed, right? We're going to have the cards or scout wristbands that have the opponent's plays, and we're gonna film that and try to make sure that we feel good against that stuff. Okay, and then same deal. A typical day, offense is going to get 3 12 to 15-minute periods, and remember, if they want extra, they can keep the kids a little extra, or they can show up early. I mean, remember, our varsity kids get out at 2:15 and really don't have to be as a team until 3:45. So if a coach needs individual work or film or whatever, remember, it's not just 45 minutes. But for us, as practice starts, we have 1, 2, 3 offensive periods. We say it's 12 minutes. If it extends to 15, that's fine. And if it extends past 15, they really got to know, all right, there's got to be a good reason why it extends past 15. Otherwise, they got to be able to cut that because we're already saying, hey, we're not going to put the pressure on you to do a 4-minute periods, boom, 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 boom. So at some point, we have to just be able to cut it and do a better job organizing the next day. All right, so offense, I'll show you. We talked indie group. Our middle period is usually some sort of like reduced menu to just remind ourselves to keep it simple. And then we see from there. So if I had to pick a perfect practice, that first 15 minutes, maybe we separate, right? O-line's going over blocking schemes and combos, and the backs are working, pitch relationship, and maybe we're running some 7-on-7 routes, to get the backs and receivers ready. This middle period is my favorite. So that's over here. So blue offense. Okay, so Indian group, typical thing, right? If we're in group, like I just explained, sometimes the backs will be together with the QBs doing mesh drill and stuff like that, and the ends will go with the O-line because they'll have to know some of the blocking schemes and all that. Sometimes the ends will pair up with the QBs and do more, routes and passing plays and all that stuff. And the backs will go with the O-line because we want to make sure everyone's blocking. Everyone's a part of that O-line group. Everyone's hanging out with our O-line coach at some point, making sure that's important. And then sometimes the O-line will be by themselves, and we'll have all the backs together for like a 7-on-7. All right, so anyway, like I was talking about with team, when we get to a team setting, the first thing we'll do is what we call read drill. So really, it's triple, and maybe we'll add a second option in there, but really we want to say, if we got stuck in a situation where all we could do was run triple, could we still win a game? So we want to get so comfortable saying, hey, we're definitely not favored to win here. We only have the weapon of running triple, but we can run it from any formation. The scout team can mix up their defense. We can script what defenses we'll see, but a lot of times we'll just have the scout team line up where they want to. And we're just going to see, hey, when the team knows we're running triple, what can we still get out of it? That second period could be that read drill. A lot of times I'll extend it a little bit and have sort of what we call a reduced menu. So we'll say, hey, you got to drive down the field. It's 1st and 10. We're just going to do drives. You got to drive down the field, and the only things you have are, triple, stretch, and midline for this example. Maybe the next day it's you only can run things out of trips. Maybe the next day it's run anything you want, but you can only run it out of unbalanced formations. It's just getting our coaches used to seeing where they're comfortable and consistently realizing that even though you have less, like in our offense, you can do a good amount. You can do some damage without needing the whole playbook and not stressing yourself out and overthinking. Okay, another thing we'll do in team is situational stuff. So full playbooks available. I guess. I mean, there's times where we could reduce it and still do these games, but we could say, hey, we're going red zone. We're on the 20. There's this much time left. We'll work red zone situations that whole day, right? How do we manage the clock? That kind of stuff. Maybe we'll do overtime. We'll do a situational period where, hey, this entire team period of 15 minutes, we're going to go third and medium, see what happens, and then make a decision. So if it's third and medium and we get it to fourth and short, I trust my coaches. See how it feels to go for it on 4th and 1. If it's third and medium and we choose to pass and it's an incomplete, well, then that's where we practice our pooch punt. We almost exclusively pooch punt. So our quarterback punts the ball. And, there's times where we'll punt it on 3rd down. So they can play with whatever they want. But I really like this one. I like when we have a kind of a smaller drive, and it allows us, it forces us to put us in special team situations. So instead of saying, hey, we're going to have a full period of punt, it's going to be, hey, it's 3rd and medium. We got it to 3rd and 4. And now we're going to signal in punt, and we're going to play. Then we just start again. We go 3rd and medium again, whatever we want. So getting some situations and not overthinking it and just getting comfortable, just so that as many things that we could do when it's game day, we can say, guys, we did a whole 15-minute period on this, and we did it over and over and over. We're good. All right. And then the typical, full team, right? Some days we do have to script some things, especially preseason, running the full offense, moving the ball down the field. And like I said, pooch punt, field goal, always a part of it, right? We might do that same situational stuff. It's red zone 3rd and 5, anything 4th and 2 or higher, we're going to practice field goal, right? And then we just start again. So it's really good for transitions for the the field goal team to come on the field, get off the field, come on the field, get off the field, and we got to work it that way. So that's our basic practice. Again, at that point, as the offensive blue group, right, that varsity group is finishing up, we try to finish at 5:30. Really, I try to finish around 5:25. So hopefully we've trimmed some periods down closer to 12 rather than 15, and we can give our closing comments at 5:25 and definitely get them out at 5:30. All right. Those young guys, like we said, as that true varsity practice is going on, they should be with 1, maybe 2 coaches hitting a half-hour lift, and then really if there's film to do, they can do it. I mean, it's a long day, but those are young guys that a lot of them are very very dedicated and don't have as much homework as the older guys, so they're able to stay. But all that stuff is really optional. I'm not too picky about that. If a kid needs to leave at 4:30 because they went right to practice at 2:30, they're a freshman, they leave at 4:30, that's okay. That's all right. So, but as they want to learn more, they're sometimes at the end of the year, the young guys will start coming up and being an extra scout guy for the older guys because they want to see what it's like. So hope that helps. That's a general idea of how we practice. It's not perfect, but it takes a lot of pressure off us. I've just never been a 5-minute period guy. I tried it. I love being organized if I can, but it's just not as fun when you're trying to put it together every day. This is how it's worked best for us. We really started doing it, a couple years ago, and last year was probably the best, and hopefully it keeps getting better. So, all right. If there's any questions, reach out. Thanks.